ASCSGG podcast. We're here with our podcasters. Say hello, podcasters.
Hello, I'm Peter Lawrence.
Hey, fellas, I'm Chad Jetner.
And I'm Kyle Bacher. And today we're going to talk about time management.
Why would we talk about time management?
Because Chad
Peter
lost track of time this week, and we need to take him to task.
All right, so it's Friday, February 12th, and I seriously thought it was Thursday morning. And
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm not good at this, right? Like the time management thing, really
Do
not
you
my...
think that the pandemic is exacerbating that problem?
Did you say exacerbating?
I did not say
Exacerbating. is what he said.
Exacerbating.
That's what I heard.
I will
Okay.
pull the dictionary out and read it if I
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
Is it
I
making it worse?
It makes it less obvious where we are right now in relation to the Earth's rotation and the sun and the whole nine yards, right? Because it doesn't matter. I'm working or not working. There's not much in between, right? Like there's
I don't see
no...
any sun here.
Really?
Well, you've got a window. I have no window where I'm working at.
This explains a lot. But no, there's really no delineation, right? Like I'm at home. I've really not left home for anything substantial, right? Like my
Right.
normal rituals are all different, right? Like I used to, so here's my plugs. I'll get them in early. And they're not that bad. But I used to get up early. I used to eat breakfast every single day before work at the Ideal Diner in Northeast Minneapolis. Tiny little diner, 14 stools, make a friend. And then I'd go to work. And that was just the routine of like knowing what time it was. And then, you work, and then after work, 4 o'clock, 4:30, 5 o'clock, whatever, I'm done. I go to the 1029 bar in Northeast Minneapolis, plug, and then I go home. And that's like, there's no concept of that now, right? Like I wake up now, I get out of bed, I come downstairs.
Have some Lucky
work.
Charms.
I have some, no,
Captain
actually,
Crunch.
no, Captain, yeah, there you go. You're paying attention. I found, and this is no joke, I found a box of Captain Crunch Christmas Crunch in late January, and I was delighted, right? Like that was such a highlight for me because I found that, and I did not think I was gonna find Christmas Crunch until November 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I found that box, and I was like, it's like finding Frankenberries in after Thanksgiving.
I would say Blueberry was my favorite.
All right. Well, listen, to each his own. Are you a Count Chocula guy, Peter?
I will do all of the monster cereals in equal. I'm non-monster discriminating with the cereals.
I miss
All right,
them
that's-
so much.
That's incredibly progressive of you.
Blueberry was my favorite cereal.
I
of all
like
time.
strawberry. I like blueberry. I like chocolate. I just
Have you
like
ever
them all.
mixed? Have you ever mixed like a strawberry and a chocolate?
No. You
What
need
kind
to
of
settle
family
down.
has more than one of these cereals at one time? How does that even happen? Were you the
So-
only child?
How much of your time is actually under your control? It's a different routine.
Wait, we're talking
You
about
still
time
have
management
to-
now?
You still have to deal with, other people's demands on your time. You still wake up in the morning and eat your Captain Crunch Christmas Crunch.
Okay.
That's
your
true.
Blueberry.
I was going to say, this is an abrupt about face from cereal management to time management because, and
I had
we
to
have
shove
do it.
us back on topic with some. I had to get tough. Sometimes
All
you
right.
got to get tough.
That's some tough time management you've got there, Kyle.
Yeah.
Keeping
This
on
is why
track.
you're good at this and I'm not.
That's probably a feature of time management by staying focused on the task.
Focus, routine, getting in routine, having focus. But there's demands on your time that might be out of your control. So
Always.
as consultants, you're going to accept the meetings
Yes.
All of
that
them.
people schedule with you.
All
Right.
of 100%
If
of
your calendar is clear, you're going to schedule a meeting. If your calendar has something with somebody else that's not in that company, you're going to move that meeting. and schedule that meeting.
Right.
Oh, you mean like maybe a podcast?
Right.
Sorry,
If you had
guys.
Exactly.
If you had a
Yeah.
podcast scheduled for, I don't know, say noon, you might
Yeah.
end up doing it at 3:00. Wait, Chad's about to go to another meeting right now.
If
No, I'm
it's-
just
If it's 5 minutes before the podcast, and you think you're going, but 4 minutes from the podcast, someone schedules a meeting with you, you're gonna go to that meeting. So you're
Depending, I'm gonna put my foot down on that one and say depending.
right.
If somebody,
If it's on fire, yes.
yes,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
If it's somebody who just scheduled it, even though you had it blocked off, even though it was booked, and they still schedule it, I'd be like, well, there's 5 minutes before this. I need to not move this other thing.
I have worked with people that have scheduled meetings like it's a now meeting.
Uh-huh.
Like it'll appear on your calendar for 4 minutes from now, and you go, "Oh, is
Do you
this
think that's
fair?"
going to happen? Do you think that's going to happen post COVID? Like, it's one thing for us right
Yes.
now to be able
No.
to sit down at home, right? And somebody sees a free spot, and you're like, yeah, of course, I can. That is my time. I can take that time from this guy, and that's a
Yeah.
big part of this, right? Like you see a white spot on somebody's calendar, and you just automatically assume I can grab that. Like that's for
Right.
me, for anybody, right?
I try really hard to respect the calendar, not only what's happening during that time, but I don't like to schedule meetings back to back with another meeting. So before I go in even to schedule something, I will go to the share to look at their calendar and see when the openings are. And
Yeah.
if they're
It's like
having a crazy day, like all they have is an hour open in the afternoon, I'm not going to try to fill that hour.
You are a saint. You are a saint among men, because
I think you're the exception that proves the rule.
Okay.
What were you going to say?
Well,
Okay.
you don't really get that view if you're just using the scheduling assistant. You just see its open time. Like you have to look at it. You can't use that tool unless you go in to view the scheduler. But when you see those available times, green or red, and it's green. So you're like, okay, that's green. I'll grab it. Well, that'll plug you in to the only hour of someone's day. It'll back you up to a meeting. It'll,
Yep.
So what I try to do is at least a half hour between, and at least they have some air in their schedule. And even if I have to go out to the next week, like if it's not urgent, if it's urgent, I will like get you on Slack. I'll get your attention.
You know who the superheroes are these days? The people that start a meeting 5 minutes late. Like if they schedule it in Outlook for say 2:05 and extend it to 2:35, that blocks it off. Those 5 minutes on either end. That's like a what do they call them? That's a life hack, right?
That's
Because-
three-dimensional chess. Or no,
Yeah,
four-dimensional
no,
chess.
40 that's 4D chess,
Yeah.
man. That is 4D chess right there. Because not only are you saying, hey, man, I really need to talk to you, you're also saying, listen, I'm giving you the gift of 25 minutes on each end, right? Half hour,
No.
right? You get a half hour, you get a free half hour because
You get a free
yeah.
half.
yeah, that is those people. I mean, Kyle,
That's
you're
like guaranteed meeting overflow time, where it's like
Yes.
we can run over a little bit and it'll be fine. The other thing I do is I try to understand the person I'm scheduling the time with, and then be strategic about it. There's somebody that if I did it back to back, they're going to be a half an hour late.
Yeah.
Like I know what kinds of meetings run over.
So I work at a client where they schedule their lunches on their calendars.
Okay.
Like
I
you
used
have
to-
visibility into what they've got. They've opened up their calendar to let you view what the tasks are, and they have lunch listed there, which tells you that if they didn't have lunch listed there, they wouldn't get to eat lunch.
Right.
I used to do that. It was ineffective. But now, I mean, as a consultant, all of my time is available, right? Like that's the general rule.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know, Peter, but Peter, you've done this a lot longer than I have.
Optimally, yes. If you
Young,
can,
fresh-faced
yes.
Chad, my time is your time, right? Like take as much
Yeah.
as you need, right? Like I'm not a grizzled veteran like Peter. I'm
Wow.
still happy.
Grizzled crone.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think I'd reached grizzled stage yet.
No, you're grizzled. You're grizzled. I like right now. I see it as my time is your time. You're paying me for this. Happy to do it, right? Like super happy to do it. There might be a time in the future where I say, hey, I'm going to try to block off my lunch, or if you want to talk to me, we're going to lunch.
Right.
One of those things, right? But as I'm sitting at home eating, I mean, my lunch is Twizzlers right now because I'm an idiot.
A great source of strawberry flavor or cherry. Is it cherry or strawberry?
It's vitamin S, whatever.
Do you ever use a
But,
Twizzler as a straw to drink pop through?
Never.
Yes, I have. And you know what? Kyle, we are of the same mind here, right? Like Twizzlers are a snack and a utility, multifunctioning. But like right now, I'm still my calendar is wide open and it is frequently filled at noon, right? Like but I can totally see a point in time where I try to block that off. But in the past, when I've tried that previous gigs, did not work, right? Like everybody knew, oh, you're just blocking your time, right?
There's been times where like when it was crunch time and I just had to get work done, then I was more aggressive. Then I would block out like working time and which just putting working time in there and saying it's busy sometimes isn't enough. Sometimes you have to make it a private appointment.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, you must be going to the doctor or something like
That's
that.
right.
It's like, no, I need to get your stuff done.
Today I'm having 4 hours of dental work done. It'll look like I'm at my desk, but not really.
I'll just have
Totally
to push
dental work.
back. You just have to push back and say, I can't be in so many meetings. I just can't do that and get my work done. So it's going to be like one or the other. But that's usually near the end of a project when it's time to deliver and get stuff done.
I think I'm at the beginning of a project right now, and I'm happy. Like we're doing requirements, we're doing all this stuff, and I'm happy doing it, right? And yes, we're going to be in an insane amount of meetings, like a historically insane amount. But one, it's the start of a project, so I get that there's going to be a lot. Two, I absolutely love the problem that I'm solving right now. So I am not going to complain about a single meeting, right? Like I'm doing something, the project I'm on right now is super, super cool. It's super interesting. The domain is interesting to me. Everything about it is almost fun, right? Like
almost fun. You were telling us the other day that you got out of bed with a smile on your face. That sounds like it really is fun.
Yes, it actually is. It is a lot of fun. And that's true. Like most days I wake up smiling. The only days I don't wake up smiling, Saturday and Sunday. I don't get to come to work, right? Like I don't get to come down but I still come down, I poke in, I do a little thing. But
if it wasn't for social distancing, I might show up at your house and slap that grin off your face.
Oh man. Don't worry about it, man. We're about to get the poke. We'll be fine. Come slap me.
Kyle knows that he is not a morning person.
Oh,
you're not?
Takes me a while. No.
What time? What time do you wake up? What time are you engaged? What time are you fired up?
It takes me about an hour to get to work after I get to work. Like
so what is that?
I'm looking at email. I'm doing like a ramp up of stuff to get my day going.
Put this in the context of Saturday morning cartoons. What cartoon is on by the time you're fully engaged? Is it AWA Wrestling?
It's by that time it's like Grizzly Adams. It's not even cartoon time.
You missed the cartoons?
I like to start I like to work a 9 to 5, like a straight through 9 to 5. I don't really take lunch or anything like that. I don't like to. I like to just barrel through my day.
Okay.
And so, now it's like rolling out of bed at 8:30. starting, making coffee and checking some stuff and whatever. Brushing my teeth, that kind
I will
of stuff.
say this: my routine, my pandemic routine, is super slow in the morning compared to what my non-pandemic routine was.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I could hit my desk at the client after a half an hour commute before I'm really even thinking about, maybe getting some breakfast going. I've got coffee, but I haven't got any food yet. And well, maybe I'll just read this article a little bit, and maybe I'll just watch this YouTube video or something. Just the drive to get out of the house and get the day started it's gone.
Pre-pandemic, I was up at 7 every morning.
Yeah.
At the latest.
I
And
suppose you guys don't want to hear about. I mean, 5 a.m.
5:30, 5 a.m. What?
5 a.m. I get out of bed, slightly groggy. By 5:05, I'm full speed ahead, right? And I'm downstairs. I catch up on the news. I try to limit my social media in the morning. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna look at what happened, overnight. And thank goodness we're getting better. There's not a lot of news anymore,
Right.
like there used to be. But catch up on the news, catch up on social media, and then turn it off, like cut off for the day, and then start to focus on work. So I'm happy, I'm fully into work at 6 a.m. Right?
Yeah.
6 a.m. I'm all in, and then I tend to 6 a.m. to 3 o'clock ish, and then at 3 o'clock maybe I'll start to dial down a little bit. And this is pandemic chat, right? Like this is what you get for pandemic. If there's a meeting at 3 o'clock, happy to do it. If there's a meeting at 4 o'clock, still happy to do it. Maybe a little less than if it was at 3, but still happy. and then we go from there.
Right.
But it's different how I'm trying to be as positive as I can about everything that's going on, right? Because if it wasn't for the pandemic, I'd be going to my diner for breakfast. I'd be going to happy hour. I'd be doing all this other stuff.
Right.
I'm bummed that I can't do that right now.
Sure.
But I'm happy that I'm in a position that I can do this instead, which is amazing.
Yeah.
A lot better.
So, time management. I am not good at it at all. I accept 100% of the meetings. I don't care when they are. I try to cut out distractions during the workday, and I realize the enormous privilege that I have with, my wife is a stay-at-home mom, right? So I don't have to worry about my daughter and her school and everything else. I totally get that that's a thing that is not that normal anymore for some folks, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I don't have to worry about, Abby's upstairs, she's doing her schoolwork. My wife is on top of that. I can literally just be downstairs in the office here, 100% focused on work. And I have the added benefit that if I am in back-to-back meetings, my daughter has a cell phone and she knows how to make coffee. So I can just text her, hey, Abby, I'm out of coffee. So
that is a nice benefit of the
that would
pandemic.
be nice.
It is kind of neat that a lot of the people at the client I'm at right now, they know my daughter. They know, hey, say hi to Abby really quick.
Nice.
She'll pop in, and they all know who she is because if it's during the workday, she'll pop in with a coffee. There you go, Dad.
Push cart of coffee and some
That'd be
pastries for you.
hilarious.
A croissant would be nice, yeah. But if it's 4:30, 5 o'clock, she'll stop down with a grain belt. Dad, it's 4:30, 5 o'clock. Did you know what time it was? Here's a grain belt.
Wow.
And she'll be on the camera and she'll wave, and the client knows that's Abby. So
Nice.
that is a ridiculous benefit that I have that other folks don't have, and I appreciate that. But I read some of the New York Times stuff about some of these mothers at home, managing children and work.
It's
everything else.
just insane.
It is
you do it.
bonkers what folks have to go through.
Yep.
So as bad as my time management skills are, I cannot imagine, some of what folks have to deal with right now.
Just imagine
Well,
how fast you'd have to ramp them up if that situation changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like if all of a sudden you're managing your daughter during the day and your wife got sent to, I don't know, Spain for a holiday and she didn't want to take you for whatever reason. I mean, trying to imagine a nice way to get rid of the person and make your time management more challenging, right?
Right.
Not a bad way, but a nice way. They got sent to Spain and they're doing Spanish things and you're there all day trying to manage things, and just the enormity of that.
I think for me in my role,
Kyle, go Kyle.
Time management, Kyle. Get to bed earlier.
Yeah.
You're yawning.
Sorry, I yawned. I was running out of oxygen, so my system kicked in. For me, I have a lot of people I support that will cry out
at all hours of the day.
Help me. And so I have to loosely hold on to my fancy plans for the day. And I have to be available. If I don't make myself available and I don't handle things fairly constantly and fairly quickly, then things start to build up. And what you don't want when you're doing tech support is 50 little 5-minute tasks to be on a list.
Right.
Because when someone says it's been 2 weeks, all I needed was an email alias. All I needed was a shared mailbox. All I needed was blank. It just does not.
But those aren't 5-minute tasks anymore, right? Those are
some of them
18-minute tasks because you have 5 minutes to do it and 12 minutes of context switching and 1 minute of break and then on to the next 5-minute task, right?
Yeah.
If you build them up, they get to be overwhelming. Whereas if you just
I'm fairly efficient at, it's like depends on how deep my flow state is and what I'm doing. Like if I get in a zone, and you pull me out of it and I get pulled out of it for some reason, it's never 5 minutes. It's a half hour.
Right.
But if I'm doing rapid task switching and just keeping a lot of plates spinning, if I'm in that mode, then it's no problem at all to add that.
Right.
Oh, I was assigned this task. This just came in. I'll just go out here and get this link and send it over and move on, and I'll answer this Slack message and I'll go to this email. It's like you're keeping things from piling up. You just got to stay on top of that little stuff. And then,
Chad, would you say that during your meeting times that you're getting those things done now with pandemic that you might not otherwise have gotten done?
No. So for me, there's so many meetings. There's so much to absorb, so much to learn, where like I have to do, here's what I do to stay focused. I have baseballs at my desk, right? And I make it a point to always be doing something like this with my hands, because if I'm not doing this, my hands are free to be on the keyboard. And if they're on the keyboard, I'm going to alt tab and I'm going to try to multitask and I'm going to miss the context of the meeting. But if I'm doing this, or if I'm playing with, I was playing with this cryptex earlier. If I'm playing with this, then I'm paying attention to what's going on, right? So for me, I am desperately trying to keep my attention in whatever context it needs to be in. And baseballs are huge for me. Like I'll just do this constantly. I usually mute my mic because it can be loud.
I am, I'm looking at one window right now. I have one window open and I do not respond to Slack messages like right now because I'm in this. And
you're in this, right?
If I'm in a meeting with somebody, I don't check Slack. I don't, if I'm in a group meeting that isn't really about me, then I'm just not interested. uh,
If
And
it's
then I'll
not about
check it.
Kyle, it's not
well,
about Kyle.
there's meetings where you can be a passive participant, and there's meetings where you have to be an active participant. So passive participant, I will allow I'll drift a little bit, but I'll be listening. I won't do stuff that's going to totally take me out of it, but I might just, look at Slack to make sure nothing's on fire. Look
Or
and
Slack-
see who sent me
Slack
an
the
email.
message, something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah.
I think for myself, and I think, I'm touched with a hair of that ADD stuff, right? So like my attention will absolutely wander. So I need something like a baseball to keep me from doing anything else. And it's not like, I know we're supposed to be talking about time management, but this is more focus management for me, right?
Yeah.
Like you can take
Sure.
all of my time that you want to. I'm going to do my damnedest to manage my own headspace to make sure that I'm focused on whatever the context is at that given time. And for me, it's baseballs or, anything to keep my hands from hitting,
Well,
hitting my.
I think focus management is time management.
It is absolutely.
I had to update one of our connectors in Salesforce because if I didn't do that if I didn't convert us to single sign-on between our Pardot and our Salesforce, people would lose their ability to log in on Monday. I learned about it on Monday.
When people lost the ability to log in.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that kind of an upgrade, converting accounts, stuff like that. And then hearing, you start reading the documentation and there's about 18 warnings up front and the word irreversible.
Yeah.
And
My
phrase cannot be undone and must be converted to, then I'm in a deep dive, like information absorption mode where I'm looking at page after page of documentation and following links and Googling things. And because I'm doing this in production,
Yep.
and there's a clock on it. And in that case, I'm not responding to anybody.
No.
Yep.
And it's just stuff's just going to have to wait because I can't be going in and out of that task. Like if you're writing code, if you're trying to kick out a bunch of code, it's not something you can just keep starting and stopping. You have this whole creative zone you get into where like, okay, now and you have this big lineup of things you're going to be doing that you're writing code for. It's got to do this, and I have to have this in there to do that, and that has to touch this thing, and that does that. I don't know how to code. And semicolon, brackets.
Brackets. Lots
Click.
of semicolons.
Yeah.
Right click,
Java now.
IntelliSense.
That's amazing.
Tab.
Here's the other bonus of the baseball, right? And take whatever ball you want. But for me, people can tell when I don't like what I'm hearing in a meeting because it starts getting harder and harder and harder. And they're like, Chad, are you all right? Right. And I'm like, well, listen, I think maybe we just need to double back. And if the baseball stops, that means like I'm really, really trying to pay attention. So like people have actually picked up on that in meetings right now. Like, oh, Chad, are you okay? It's not your normal toss. That seems aggressive.
So you just
you've
have a
stopped
little
something.
indicator on your screen that says happy, not happy, but it's really a baseball.
I'm seeing a video tracking, audio tracking app that ties into Teams that is like the Chad meter.
That's
And
right.
it uses the baseball activity to convert that into some kind of a display.
Yeah.
I like it.
Well, I
Big
want to get
money.
a radar gun, right? Like they use for actual baseball pitchers.
Yeah.
So you can see like I mean, I'm going from here to here, so I'm doing, these are 10, 15 mile an hour tosses. But if
Yeah.
you see a 30 mile an hour fastball, that's a fastball for me. Like,
Yeah.
that's some high heat. You better let's settle down a little bit.
Talk about it. Roll back.
Yeah. So it's I don't know, it's helpful.
So how do you prevent your kind of too much time being spent on work? How do you manage work-life balance in regards to time management?
Peter, because I'm bad.
I will say this: that it's the same way that you managed it before. You have I'm going to work now, and I've got a light that I turn on, and my computer is set to work computer instead of home computer.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, the light gets turned off. That's a signal to my brain. Okay, I'm not going to stop thinking about it, because nobody ever stops thinking about it. And solving problems at breakfast or in the shower is perfect, especially the really hard ones, because those you've been thinking on for a long time. But, the day's over, and leave the room. Get that break. Don't just switch over and start surfing the web or something like that. Get up, move away, change venue.
That's yeah, for me, like I do similar things, right? Like, okay, 4:00 ish, 4:30, Abby comes down with a grain belt almost automatically. And I know, oh, I didn't even notice, right? Like, I didn't notice it was getting dark out over there when it gets dark out at 4:30.
Yeah.
I just, like, now I realize, oh, okay, thank you, Abby. We're hitting the tail end. And for me, that's kind of a wrap up what you're doing and head upstairs. During this whole pandemic, during everything, it turns out I love to cook. Like, I've started cooking.
Nice.
And smoking meats and doing the whole 9 yards, finding something to keep myself occupied. So I actually get excited instead of getting excited to go to happy hour with my pals, and hopefully now that I'm a consultant, some of the clients, instead of doing that now, I'm excited to be like upstairs cooking, right? And figuring out whatever. So for me, like, her coming down kind of delineates work time from, okay, your day's over, let's relax, come upstairs, relax, and kind of make me dinner.
Do you think she's sending a message subtly, like, hey, I'm hungry?
Oh, yeah.
Or...
Yeah.
Yeah. The grain belt might come down a little earlier if she knows what's on the menu for the night, and she's excited for that. So
nice.
Yeah, sometimes.
Is it 4:30? Yes, it is. Don't look at a clock.
Yeah. And it's, like, half of that is pretend and play, right? Like, I know what time it is, but it makes her happy to think that she's pulling me out of something. And I don't feel bad about, especially during this, when I'm down at my desk at 6 a.m. and, I start to the engine starts to go, like, calm down, 3:30, like, I start to wind down at that point, and it's fine. But, like, I can easily just sit down here until 7, 8 o'clock, right?
Easily, right? Yep.
If I didn't have,
Yeah, I can like, all of a sudden it's 9 o'clock.
Right.
And I didn't realize it. I was just heads down working on something, and it just didn't occur to me to check the time. It didn't occur to me, like, nothing got me up. I didn't notice the coffee had been gone for hours.
Right. You just keep moving the empty cup and go, oh, I should get that filled. Oh, well.
Yeah, you're just kind of in that mode. Yeah. I really try to, like, stop. Like, 5 o'clock hits, I'm like, okay, yeah, I think I'm good. Of course, that's on a Friday, it's 4 o'clock. Fridays are tough for me. Like, at 2 o'clock on a Friday, I'm usually ready to be done for the week.
for me, Fridays are special because Fridays pre-COVID, that meant meat raffle, right?
Oh,
And I go to a meat raffle on a Friday at the same bar, and it starts filling up at about 3:30. So if I'm at the office, I start to get tense at 2:30, 3 o'clock on a Friday because I know if my butt isn't planted in a bar stool at 4:15, 4:30 on Meat Raffle Friday, I'm going to be in a spot in the bar where I'm not going to get my pick of the tickets, right? Like I'm going to
Right.
get passed up for Meat Raffle tickets. And you know
Right.
what? That is ridiculous, right?
Sometimes
Like,
they run
nobody-
out.
Yeah, I need to be in pole position for the meat raffle. I
Right.
need to be in the pole position. I need to be right up front, right where it's, you know, right where the tickets are good. I don't want to have to be like, oh, we're out of tickets. You know, I'll get you next round because they never get you next round. They always forget where they
don't.
left off. And it's ridiculous. I get so like it just raises my hackles. Is that a thing?
it
Do
is.
hackles still get raised, right? Okay.
Hackles do get raised.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
so I'm with you on the Fridays, Kyle, probably for different reasons.
Yeah.
But like, if I'm not in the right spot at the right bar at the right time on a Friday afternoon, it's like Rain Man. It's my Wapner at 4, right? Like I have to be on the west side of the bar at the 1029 at I want to say 4 o'clock, 4:15 at the latest on a Friday for the meat raffle. And it gets earlier in the winter because it gets fuller in the winter, right? Summer meat raffles are different than winter meat raffles. So there's a whole thing about it. But
I don't want to spoil this for you, Chad, but as a consultant, you may find
I
your
know.
Fridays are more challenging than you thought they would
I
be.
know. I knew this coming in. I knew this coming in.
You know that
However-
meeting that gets thrown on your calendar at
Oh,
2:55
there's like
Or 3
there should
o'clock
be
till 5.
punishment.
Friday
If
afternoon?
somebody schedules a 4 o'clock meeting on a Friday, there needs to be punishment for that.
Well,
I don't
listen,
know why Outlook doesn't block those things.
a wise man once told me that if somebody schedules a meeting 5 minutes before it's supposed to start, you actually aren't obligated to take that meeting, right? Like I've heard this. It seems like this is new information to me that I just
However-
absorbed.
Just remember that there are varying levels of overriding and exceptions that prove the rule.
There's layers upon layers.
So
Yeah.
if the CEO comes down and says, "Hey, Chad, I know it's Friday, but would you mind having a meeting in 5 minutes with 20 of our most distinguished something or others?"
If
you'd
the
be like, "Well, I do have this meat raffle that's super important."
So
But
you tell the
I could squeeze you in.
CEO, you tell the CEO, hey, you bring them 20 people to the meat raffle, right? Like my odds go up there.
Yeah. Okay.
I kind of feel like
I'm gonna
meetings
revisit this in a year.
I'm
meetings
sure-
should never happen. Meetings should never happen before 9. They should never happen after 4. They should never happen from 11:30 to 12:30.
They should never last more than 30 minutes.
You know, and it's like never afternoon on Friday, never before noon on Monday.
We've actually we actually just talked about this. So my team, we actually established team norms, and team norms, one of those is core hours, like the idea of core office hours.
Yep.
And I think for Midwestern folks, and I don't think we're speaking out of school here, we've established
in the
9 a.m. to 3 p.m. as core hours, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We didn't necessarily block off the lunch hour, but like if you say these are the hours that you can reasonably expect everybody on the team to be available,
Right.
that is a good base level. And then you get the guys on either end of it, right? Like you get the guys that start at 6 a.m., work through 3 p.m., and then
Yep.
after 3 p.m., you know, kind of a crapshoot if they're going to be available or not. But you've
Right.
established core hours and you're good for those 6 hours. And
Yeah.
that also gives everybody on each end of the spectrum, you know, the 9 o'clock people might have 3 to 5 to actually work. I don't know what that
Yeah.
would be like, but
And the 7 a.m. people have 7 to 9 to work.
you know, and honestly, I realize maybe this is an aberration, but like my 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., like those are my golden hours.
A golden
Like,
hour. I was just going to
yeah.
say that.
I am way more I'm way more alert, excited, creative, everything during those hours than I am at you know say 3:30, 4 o'clock, right?
Right.
Or
Right.
even I would say even 11 o'clock, right? Like once 11 o'clock hit, once the gut punch of the meetings start, right?
Yeah.
For those that don't like meetings, don't get me wrong, I love meetings. Every single one is a unique and special jewel that I examine from all facets. But if you're not of that mindset and you're like 11 a.m., you're looking down the barrel of 6 more meetings or 5 more meetings, for your day,
Yeah.
you're not, your brain isn't there, right? Like your mindset
you're not.
is
And if you have a half an hour between meetings, you're not getting
that's
anything
not
done.
a half hour. That's
No.
not a half hour of, oh, I can solve this problem. I've taken this issue off of my backlog, and somebody scoped it out as a 1 or whatever, and a 1 means a half a day, so it's only
Yeah.
going to take me 3.5 hours after I work on it for this half hour. That is nonsense. That's
Right.
Somebody explained it to me, like a really good explanation of switching contexts when it comes to working on IT problems is that it's like adding, 9-digit numbers, right? Like you add them right to left. Take 2 9-digit numbers, start adding them together, right? And get 3 numbers in from the right, and then switch contexts, right? And
Yeah.
without writing anything down of what you did, now go back to that 9-digit number and keep trying to add that, right? Like, no, you got to go back to you got to go back 1 or 2 spots, and you got to keep
Right.
going, right? You can't just put that problem down, switch context, talk to somebody else about something different, and then come back there and expect to be at the exact same spot that where you left off on.
Yeah.
So
No,
What
I
do we-
think.
It's a good visual.
And then what do you do about the person that doesn't respect the core hours? Because there's, like I've had gigs where there's always that one guy that's going to be, all of a sudden you got something at 7 a.m. in St. Paul. And now you got to get up at like 4:30 in the morning or 5.
I'm for that. I'm okay with that.
You would be.
Okay,
You're
let's
not meeting
imagine
at a
it at the
diner.
5 o'clock meeting on the other side of town from the meat raffle.
It
Well,
used to be
listen,
too,
now we're
like,
talking crazy.
the unwritten rule was if you schedule a meeting over lunch,
You pay for
you
that.
have to supply lunch.
Right.
Yeah.
But that doesn't work in a remote workforce.
And I've seen lots of in-person workforces where that rule was never like, yeah, you're just gonna have to figure that out. 2 o'clock lunches are the norm, apparently.
I honestly, as a consultant, I mean, we are a service, right? And we don't,
A human service, though.
yeah, we are a human. I mean, but
Yeah.
it's the impression I get isn't, this is going to come out wrong, but the impression is kind of like we're always on, right? Like we are there to satisfy whatever problem needs you have, and scoped, but we're there to provide you a service, and it's something for you to tap
Yeah.
into.
But it's a kind of a group effort between you and the client to work out the best way to serve them.
Yeah, and we might be talking about problems that I just haven't experienced yet as a consultant because
and
I've got a
most
great
of them-
client.
They don't normally come up either. They're problems that happen occasionally, right? And very occasionally.
Right.
One thing I found is like, oh, well, I've got my 40 hours in at 3 o'clock on Friday, but you have this 4 o'clock meeting. Did you want me to do overtime? Did you want me to take, not come in on Monday at all or something like that?
Yeah. Is there a hard cap on the number of hours per week?
Sometimes there's a hard cap on week hours, and be
Yeah.
like, well, your 3 overtime meetings I'm gone at noon. Sorry.
Before we go, do I have time to demonstrate to you guys and to our listeners what I'm doing for Valentine's Day, or is that not? Because this is I'm proud of this one.
Well, this is a family podcast, but yeah, I think.
No, what I'm doing is a family thing, so it's okay for that. So Are we done talking about time management, Kyle? Is that okay? Kyle, you look
Kyle's
confused.
stunned.
Sure.
All right. Because I'm proud of this one, and I want people to realize. So every morning for the last 6 days, well, since COVID, I put out my wife's coffee in the morning, right? I put out 2 coffee pods every single morning, and I have a little touch of the OCD. So I put out 2 coffee pods, and on top of the coffee pods, I put out a Hershey Kiss, right?
Nice.
Doesn't it
since I have-
melt?
No, because the coffee pot, it's those little K cups, right? So there's a little
Okay.
K cup on top of each coffee pot. And then I point the flags in the same direction every single morning, right?
Wow.
Every single morning. I straighten the flags on the kisses. I make sure they're pointing true north because that's who she is. She's my true north. And so every single morning she wakes up and she sees the flags pointing in the exact same direction. They're both just straight to the right. Except for on Monday, I started pointing them in different directions according to the face of a clock, right? So this one says
look at that.
12. That's 12:15, right?
Nice.
Okay.
And she thought it was so weird. She took a picture. She's like, "What is this? What is this?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's a clue." And then the next day, they were pointing in a different direction, and a different direction, and a different direction, right? Every single day leading up until Valentine's Day. And on Valentine's Day morning, I'm going to give her the alphabet, and next to the alphabet is going to be a bunch of timestamps, right? Corresponding for each day of the week, a timestamp. And then she's going to get this cryptex, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so she's going to open the cryptext. Hopefully, she will have deciphered that each day, each time meant a letter. She'll translate that. She'll plug in the code. She'll open the cryptext, right?
Yep.
And then the cryptext has this little chamber in it, right?
Yeah.
And in the chamber is going to be a note, right? This beautiful note that I wrote. Took me a long time to compose. And the note says, for our listeners, we're almost out of grain belt.
That's-
But I put exclamation points, but I put hearts on the bottom of the exclamation points. So it's a
totally,
love letter.
totally Valentine's Day right there.
Oh, I thought now that you were going to have to go to an old church and find a loose stone and lift that up and follow that to a underground tunnel of some sorts, and then it was going to be the Da Vinci Code.
He's
Well,
made
this-
it easier on his wife than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
Or
don't have
National
Greenbelt.
Treasure, Book of Secrets.
They don't have grain belt at those places.
Yeah, that's right. No grain belt.
Put on these special glasses. Yeah. Hold it up to the light. Wait till the moon is full.
Yeah. Born under a blood moon in the year of the dog.
There you go.
I
All
don't
right.
know what a
Thank you.
blood moon is.
I was proud of this one. I needed to say it. I needed more people to hear it than just my wife.
He was
That's quite
he
the
was
effort.
bubbling.
I commend you for your
should we talk about the
creativity.
time management that it took to put that together, and you were able to carve that time out pretty, because it was important, right?
I actually had to take this apart. I had to take all the cylinders off
Uh-huh.
and assemble it to make the code that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Right. Which actually didn't, it wasn't that bad. But yes, there was time invested in this.
Right.
And let's not forget about all of the time it took me to compose that letter that's going
Right.
in, right? Like that time, the time
And
management skills.
And the end result was super important to you, that
Yeah.
more grain belt gets purchased.
We'll
Yeah,
make
you were
sure
able to-
for future
able-
podcasts for our audio listeners to have more props.
But
Yeah.
But the time management angle is you got it done because it was important. You made the time, and I think that's good advice. Right there.
That is an amazing way to tie it all together. Figure out what is
Yeah.
important and make time for it. This was
That's
kind
right.
of important to me.
So
I mean-
Exactly.
a long time ago, there was a motivational speaker whose name was Zig Ziglar. Probably not that super long ago, but he did a lot of seminars and tapes and things like that, books, that whole thing. But he talked about motivation and time management. We talked about packing your suitcase the night before a trip.
What kind of madman does that?
And no, but it's that kind of energy you get right before a vacation, right before a trip, where you're just scrambling, you're just doing stuff. It's like you don't have to have a lot of built-in motivation for that. You just you get up that morning and you got to do stuff.
You're packing.
I call it for what I do, and this is more procrastination, time management, but I call it eating the frog. And I think I got that from a book somewhere a long time ago.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Where like you have a huge task ahead of you. You've got a lot of them. You just take the least pleasant one and you do it first, right? You eat the frog, you do whatever, and you just plow through. And once you've done that, like the rest of it does not seem as intimidating as the frog.
Yeah, right. The hard stuff is done. Now it's the easy stuff.
Yeah.
Well, and there's something to be said for just starting to move. You know, if you're stuck on something, you don't want to do it. If you start just like get up, stand up, do something, get moving, and then
I thought this was going to turn into a Bob Marley song.
Get up, stand up, stand up for your rights. Get up, stand up. Don't give up the
Get your
fight.
stuff done.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
And with that, I think we'll wrap it up. Unless you guys have any more last-minute Hail Marys, anecdotes.
No, this was great. Speaking of time management,
President's Day stories.
Yeah. No.
What do you? Yeah.
Well, how do you celebrate now? I don't know.
Take it away,
Just
Kyle.
give the bankers a day off.
Put it to bed.
All right. That was the SDG podcast. If you want to get a hold of us, shoot us an email at thepodcasters@solutiondesign.com. Until next time, say goodbye, everybody.
So long,
Good.
friends.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.